you believed waterboarding was not torture and you wanted to run some scam or hoax to sell your point of view, wouldn't you fake being waterboarded yourself, rig something up so it would look like you were nearly drowning when in reality you were not taking in any water at all? Wouldn't you then announce waterboarding is not torture? I mean, the publicity yield would be enormous and you'd probably get a kiss from Dick Cheney. In our number one story tonight, there is a bizarre conspiracy theory out there tonight about the waterboarding of Eric Mancow Mueller, which we first showed you a week ago. Yet its premise is that there was some kind of conspiracy to keep Mancow from really being waterboarded, a conspiracy that also demanded he would have to admit he was wrong and that waterboarding was indeed torture. He joins us in a moment. This is being pitched by an anonymous emailer at a gossip website called Gawker, and the premise is that because the Chicago radio personality Mancow was not tilted at the precise prescribed angle of waterboarding, and the ex-Marine doing the waterboarding admits he never waterboarded anybody before, that right there is not waterboarding, and thus, quote, Mancow's waterboarding was completely fake, unquote, even though that is 12 ounces of water going up his nose and in his mouth and into his throat and lungs in 6 seconds.
I don't want to say this. I do not want to say this. Absolutely torture.
You do.
Absolutely. I mean, that's drowning.
Hours before we were to interview Mancow on Tuesday of this week, we were forwarded anonymously an email chain originating with his publicist, who was apparently desperately trying to find somebody to perform the waterboarding. When somebody offered a name, she wrote in reply, "You are a rock star. It is going to have to look real, but of course would be simulated with Mancow acting like he is drowning. It will be a hoax, but have to look real. Would be great if they could dress in fatigues and bring whatever is needed. We will supply the water." There it is. The only actual evidence that this was somehow not legit. One use of the word hoax in an email. Nevertheless, when our staff got those emails, we did all the due diligence and then some. We contacted the publicist. She repeatedly and profoundly assured us that was just a bad choice of words in the heat of trying to find somebody at the last minute to participate. We contacted the waterboarder. We left him messages. We verified his charity and his military record independently. We spoke to Mancow himself. We reviewed the waterboarding tape repeatedly for any sign of fraud, and we concluded that the people involved here would not have pulled a stunt that would have besmirched a charity for the families of soldiers called Valor for Veterans. If our perspective here had been political or sloppy, we wouldn't have checked anything. You know, the way the website did it. After we had Mancow on the air, and he was gracious, and he admitted again waterboarding was torture, and that he now didn't know whether or not you could trust answers produced by it, and he was legit, those emails were then sent to the website Gawker, which immediately printed them, branded the whole thing a hoax, and whose investigative writer, John Cook, took time out from the site's normal topics. Which 80s queen used to cruise the Lower East Side for a young Latino boy flesh? To email me and ask, do you have any comment regarding the fact that your program promoted what turns out to have been a fake waterboarding? Yes, I do. I have 3 comments. 1, there was no faking. 2, it did occur to you, right, that the person who sent you the emails probably wanted to see Mancow's conversion discredited because the far right can't have somebody it considered its own dramatically saying he was wrong. And so somebody played your website like a $3 banjo for political purposes. And 3, if you're actually the investigative writer for Gawker, I'd recommend telling as few people as possible. Joining us again from Chicago, the host of his own morning radio show on WLS there, Mancow. Well, howdy.
Well, you and I are odd bedfellows. We don't want to be in this situation. Trust me, folks.
It is rather remarkable.
It is so insane. This guy called me, and no matter what I said, he wouldn't listen. He had an agenda. That's it. And I lose, Keith. I lose and I lose and I lose on this. The far right's mad at me because I said it was torture. The left is mad at me because, I don't know. They're always mad at me. So I can't win here. But what about the truth? It doesn't matter. It doesn't. The truth has been lost here. Let me tell you, the CIA is very specific. Head back. Water in the nose and mouth. Did you have a cover? What kind of clothes were you wearing? Were your hands chained? You weren't in prison. Was this an official interrogator? I admit it. It was a stupid radio stunt. But waterboarding, all it is water in your nose and mouth with your head back. Look at the video. I'm not David Copperfield. We had 50 news cameras there, for goodness sake. This is, go ahead.
But explain that the one thing in here that has apparently led to all this is the use of the word hoax in your publicist's email. Explain that.
Well, here's the deal. It's selective. You have to understand something. Citadel, my parent company, ABC, Talk Radio Network, Building Security, the Chicago cops came and said, you can't waterboard. You cannot do this. Oh, we're not. They are, and also the word stunt. It is a radio stunt. Hoax, stunt. And this thing took on a life of its own. I didn't think it was any big deal. She didn't think it was any big deal. We were going to prove that it was nothing. You see what happened?
Yeah, no, I know.
They're picking and choosing. I'll tell you how sick this is. This is an awful analogy, but it's all I can come up with. It's like saying that Mike Tyson's daughter didn't really hang herself because she wasn't in the gallows. She didn't have the official rope. It wasn't official.
Yep.
Yes, this was a Marine who had 2 Purple Hearts who leaned me back and waterboarded me.
And by the way, has a charity whose reputation he has to preserve and protect, by the way.
But the agenda, there's dark forces behind this. I really believe this. Forget the truth. A lot of people, Democrat and Republican alike, have banked on this not being torture. Now, look, as I've said, and you and I disagree on this, I got my daughters wandering around here. Would I waterboard somebody pulled off the battlefield, some enemy combatant, to save a life? Yes. Were these Marines doing this for their jollies? Keith Olbermann, I don't believe so.
No, I don't believe so either.
But, okay.
Yeah,
well,
that's 2 things we agree on. I don't think anybody was doing it for jollies. I think they were told it was going to work, and it did. But let me get back to this so we can knock down this conspiracy theory.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out do you have any idea what they think your motive would have been to set up a conspiracy which resulted in you saying, I was wrong about this? It seems like a really bad conspiracy.
Keith, it's Scott McClellan. It's anyone that doesn't go party line, and I am so sick of this in America. And I'll tell you what, I think America's with me on this. I'm left. I'm right. I'm left. I'm the king of all media. I've got talent on loan from God. I'm this. What about the truth? What happened? What happened to Americans able to debate? This issue's huge. I wanted to get inside it for me. I wasn't trying to say that this was the end-all of everything. I wasn't trying to recreate Guantanamo Bay and what our fine military men do. This was me on the radio trying to see what it was about so that I could argue that it was not torture.
Right.
I failed, and now everyone's mad at me. And I'm sorry I can't go party line.
And you have taken heat for saying waterboarding is torture?
Oh, come on. Land of the free. I give you the land of the lemmings. You say whatever your party tells you to say. Left-wing radio says what they're supposed to say. Right-wing radio follows their talking points. And frankly, I'm sick of it. How about the truth? For God's sakes, man.
I know you conceived this as a radio event, as a stunt, but, you mentioned truth. Sometimes great ones come out when you least expect them. And I'm thinking maybe there's a bigger one in here even than the original topic about waterboarding, that telling the truth, even accidentally, even in a sort of small way, can be very, very dangerous stuff.
Well, they can't have me doing this, I suppose. I guess they can't allow this to be out there. And I'm sorry, I always thought that was what it was about. I didn't think it was about, I bleed red, white, and blue. I don't care about any of your political parties. We got tough times right now. I'm trying to help this country. I was trying to get inside the story. Look, I do a radio show that is a diversion, okay? That's it. It's to make people laugh on their way to work. I'm not trying to change the world here. I was trying to get inside this story, and it became all this. But to say it was a hoax or that it didn't really happen, how do you fake that?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, how do you fake that? I mean, this is the lion's den. I hope you knew that before you tuned in, folks. This is where the angels and the devils fight. But here we go.
I would think, knowing you briefly, that if there were a hoax, it would have been a much better one than this one. Mancow of Chicago's WLS, once again in bizarre circumstances.
I play pranks all the time.
Yeah,
That's the irony here.
No, this isn't one of them. All right, we find common ground again.
This one's real. Oh, okay.
All right, and say hi to your wife and your daughter there. Okay.
This has got to be in the Book of Revelations, Keith.
Have a good weekend.